Today we're going to talk about the remaining type in human design known as the reflectors. They are what I would consider our wise ones and humanity's guardians. Now, what is human design? It's a philosophy that encompasses a number of things such as astrology, I Ching, Kabbalah, numerology, quantum physics, and the Hindu Brahmin sort of chakra system. Now this will be the last one that I do on the types of human design, and then we're going to go into another area of human design. So we're going to start diving a little bit deeper, a little bit more into the intricacies of human design. So reflectors are considered to be quite rare. There's usually only about 1% of our population are reflectors, and hence the name reflectors. They are acting a lot like mirrors to us and to the collective. They can often show us who we are and show us what we don't see. So they can be a little bit triggering for some people because the reflector is showing you things that you may not really like about yourself, whether you're aware of that or not. And it can also be more of a collective theme as well. So not always necessarily showing you your own personal individualized experiences, but also what's going on in a collective environment. So they're very what we would consider sensitive, adaptive, insightful, and fluid. And when we're looking at their energy field, so there's an energy field that resides on the outside of us. Outside's a funny way to describe it, but there's an energy field that sits on the surface of our body, and each of the human design types has their own variations of that. So the reflector has a lot more what we call a sampling and reflective aura. So they're sort of taking in little bits and pieces from the environment, whether that be people, places and things, and they sort of reflect that out. And it's very open. They have no defined centers. So if you ever look at a human design chart, there's 9 centers these days, and they all have different shapes and different placements of a picture of a human being sitting. And in a reflector, none of the shapes are colored in because they don't have any channels. So a channel is created when you've got a gate from one of the centers or one of the shapes that then connects up with another gate from another shape and center, and they're on the same channel. So when you get one gate and another gate that are activated when someone's born or through transit, you'll see it creates a channel. And when a channel is created, then at least two defined centers are created. And with a reflector, they don't have any gates that match up to another gate on any channel. So they are open, as we call them. And they are, because they're very open, there's that sensitivity that comes with it. I would say they're not quite as absorbent as an environmental projector, though. So environmental projectors are very open. They will often, a lot of their body centers, actually all of their body centers will be open. The only ones they'll have defined is either the head, ajna, and the throat. And yes, the head and throat, yes, might be considered like on the body, but in human design, it's not really considered a body authority. It becomes more of an outer authority, an environmental authority that they will use to help engage with their decision making. And because the projector's aura is quite absorbing, whereas the reflector is more of a sampling. So yes, they're open and sensitive, but they don't, and the scale of taking on things in the environmental projector takes on usually more because of the type of aura that they have. And yeah, with the sensitivity that reflectors experience, it can also mean that they can lose a bit of their sense of self in the other, and they don't have a consistent or reliable flow of energy. It's very lunar. It's what we might call as being a bit of a unicorn, a bit of a shapeshifter, because our environment is always going through cycles, and their cycles are related to the moon. I'm going to go into that a little bit more soon. And the interesting thing that I find with reflectors is that they are often not the easiest to pick up what type they are initially, because they're reflecting back to you sometimes who you are. So if you're a projector and you meet a reflector, you might be, oh yeah, this is another projector. Or if you're a generator, you meet a reflector, it's the same thing. Oh, they might be a generator. Until you kind of get to know them, or you talk about human design and they say they're a reflector. So they're the only type that only has one strategy. So all the other types, there can be slight variations, actually, shall I say, of authority. So yeah, all 5 types had their own strategy, but 4 of the types can have variations of authority and how they work with their strategy, whereas reflectors only have one authority. And as I said before, it's similar to an environmental projector in that there's a soundboarding that happens, so needing, something in the environment, usually a person is actually best, that they can express, doesn't actually need to make sense. And this is probably the only video where I've talked about a type where I've actually gone into a little bit more detail about how to work with an authority, and I am going to go more into the authorities of the other types in another future vlogs, series of future vlogs. So with the reflector, there's soundboarding with the person, and you want the person to be as unbiased as possible. You're not requiring any advice. You are then listening to yourself and feeling yourself as you're expressing, and you're engaging like, oh, what kind of gates and centers am I hearing? Especially being undefined centers. What kind of undefined centers is speaking to me right now? And then as a reflector, it's really going through a 28-day cycle, a lunar cycle as we call it. So the moon will go through all of the 64 gates in 28 days. And so for reflectors, we're not talking about whether you want to have orange juice or apple juice today to drink. We're talking like, do you want to get married? Do you want to end a relationship? Do you want to move to another country? Do you want to start a new degree? These are what we might consider big life decisions, right? So when you go through these big life decisions, it's usually beneficial to go through a 28-day process. And when you know that the moon is then moved into another gate, engaging again with that environmental authority, that soundboarding kind of exercise. So you might have to have some very good trusted friends that are really into human design and really into taking you through this. For me as a projector, like, I love that kind of thing. We're the guides, right? So we often love to do these kind of practices with people because it's not really about telling them what to do. It's more like you getting them to engage with their own purpose and how they're doing life. And for me, I get so excited to like be on the sideline of like, yay, like seeing success, right? Success is the projector's signature. So feeling so much success and seeing other people's really win at life, whatever that might be for them. So yes. Now another element to add on top of that authority for reflectors is there's an aspect in human design where it talks about the kind of like physical environment can be really good for you and can help thrive. There's a number of different environments, so for some people it's like things like kitchens or markets or mountains or shores or valleys. And so when you're a reflector, looking at that environment and then doing your best to make those decisions when you're actually in those environments. So yeah, if your authority is markets, then going to a market or a market-like environment and using that as a way to help get clear on your decision making. And so this aspect in human design is probably the most important for reflectors, and then environmental projectors. But yes, reflectors, it's super important if they can to be in that environment as much as possible when they're having to make these kinds of big life decisions. And so if you're living with, cohabitating, collaborating, have a really good relationship, that can be friendship, intimate, work with the reflector, it's really important if you give them time and space to make such big decisions. And if possible, 28 days to a minimum to allow them to go through that process. And so then they feel really clear in the decision. They've heard all the centers speak to them that are not divine. They've gone through all the gates and now they really know what to do going forward. And yes, it's interesting, right? When you think about like sort of the grandmothers and grandfathers and those sort of like wise archetypes. I just wanted to say alchemy and archetype in the one word there. And our communities, they're not usually very fast. They move slow. They might talk slow. They may not be in a hurry to get anywhere, to say anything, to do anything. And yet when they do, and if they've embodied that archetype, it's very powerful. So it's very intentional. And that's the reflector. Reflector can be considered slow. It's very intentional. They've really gone through a process before they actually step forward into the next thing. I love that. I love that about the reflector. So all the types have what we call a not self and a signature. And it becomes like a thermometer, a parameter. It can also help you see how much in your design you are. So for a reflector, their not self theme is disappointment. When they're feeling disappointed, they're not usually living in their design. And their signature is surprise. So the more surprise that they are experiencing in their life, the more that they are embodying their signature gifts as a reflector. And for them, waiting for the invitation when in the right environment is very important. That's kind of their strategy to operate in. And it's best for them to become, if not already, really discerning about all aspects of their environment that they're in. That could be people, places and things, any aspect of life. That includes work and relationships, where and whom. So the external environment becomes very important for them, and the more that they're in the right environment for them, the right invitations will come. They'll be able to make better decisions. They'll be able to embody more of their signature. They can become more of the wise ones in our communities, and we can all work cohesively together, even more efficient and effectively, as a projector would say, as a collective. And another last little reminder is, especially if you share a sleeping space or living space with a reflector, it's really good for them to have quite a bit of time to rest, relax, decompress before the actual moment of needing to go to sleep. Similar with the manifestors and projectors as well. But reflector, it's very important. So again, we do usually recommend that you can sleep in your own space as much as possible. That's something that Human Design kind of has a blanket recommendation for all types. But I feel like it's even more important for those that are what we call non-energy types. They don't have a defined sacral, being the manifestors, reflectors, and projectors. So yes, having at least an hour before the time of actually wanting to sleep to do just really relaxing activities, not stimulating, not requiring a lot of mental focus, nor a lot of light, sound, just really gentle on the sensory experience in the environment. So those are the reflectors, and if you find one, you have one in your life, like they're special because they are rare, and I am very much a believer in there's a reason as to why there's only 1% of them, and then there's a reason as to why there's like 70% of the population are sacral beings. There's still very much the energy of doing is required, and there are people that are very well skilled and have infinite energy sources for those doing aspects of our communities. And again, only if it's within their yum. And others, we have other intricate parts to play. And when everyone is living well within their design, then the whole is, as it can be, can become even more beautiful and more cohesive. So yeah, for me, it's like very much a focus on like, how can I make sure that this is operating well, and then looking at my direct relationships, with people, in groups, and eventually it starts to become more collective. Yes, for reflectors, like the collective is very much in their forefront already, because big part of their design is reflecting to us the collective energies. And I know for those that are reflectors that have not been living in their design, the last 4 years has probably been additionally challenging for them. And I trust those that are reflectors, more of those reflectors are going to find out more about how they can best operate in the world and not burn themselves out. So if you've got any questions about reflectors, any particular things that I've spoken about today that you want some more clarity on, welcome to leave that in the comment section below. And the next Human Design vlog, we're going to start diving in to some other aspects, as I said earlier, and I'll see you again soon.